All right, so we'll call the regular meeting of Township Council for Monday, October 20th to order. Of course, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, acknowledge our valued relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. So I'm going to move the agenda as presented, and then I've got three amendments. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Now, the first amendment is to add a delegation, a third delegation from Vancouver City Credit Union, and would remove item C2 delegation, which has been withdrawn. Ms. Bauer, do you have that amendment? So this is the 4-click problem? Okay. Great. Does anybody wish to speak to that amendment? So none, call a question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. The second amendment to defer item E5 to November 17th. Seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on that deferral? Vote on the deferral. That also carries unanimously. So now on the motion to adopt the agenda as amended. That's already been moved and seconded. Just got to vote on it. Oh, okay. Councillor Kuntz, go ahead.
I do have one that I'd like to remove.
Do you have an amendment?
No, it's my my motion on P6.
So if you wish to remove it from the agenda, we certainly can, or you could just not move it when the time comes.
Okay, we'll leave it then.
All right. There we are. So the motion as amended carries unanimously. And a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from October 6th, moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion? Seeing none, call a question on the minutes. All right, so we'll move forward with item C1, our first delegation today from Amanda Smith. Please come forward. Great to see you again. Great.
He's the tech guy today. Okay, thank you so much for having the Langley Farmers Institute today to talk about the Township of Langley's Rural Community Plan, which actually is attached to the official community plan for the Township of Langley, and we just happened to notice that it is last on the list for the official community plan. So yeah, we are here on behalf of all of our farmers and our rural residents today. And I have John Caldarella who can move the slide ahead, and we're going to just dive right into the rural plan, as I'm sure that everybody here on Mayor and Council have read the 54-page document from 1993. There has been some amendments, but overall, if we take a look at the primary goal, which is literally carbon copied off of the website for the rural plan, there's a lot of notes in here about what the essence of the rural community plan is supposed to be. And I will not read all of that out, but that is there for everybody else to read. And I'll also scroll back on with this live stream so we can go ahead. So overall, the objectives are very clear, again, copied right out of the rural plan, protecting the quality of the environment in rural areas, supporting the agricultural use of land and agricultural industry in the rural area, to provide direction to economic development in the rural area that is compatible with the agricultural community, to provide a land use pattern that supports rural economy, preserves a land base for agricultural production, and is compatible with the agricultural industry, to offer recreational opportunities in the rural area, which probably is not really clearly defined within the rural plan, but again, this is from 1993. To preserve buildings of heritage value and landscapes, roads and sites of scenic and or historic significance, and to provide an adequate level of transportation service to the rural area, which I'm sure has been worked on, but we haven't really come to anything to that point. Okay, so going through the rural plan, there's a lot of outdated information. Again, rural lot sizes are different now than the rural lot study of 1980. Claims to say that the Fraser Valley has the highest animal density as of 1993, which is very different now. We still have mink added as livestock. We all know what happened there. Outdated farm sales using a 1991 census. We are still stating that Langley is the horse capital of BC, but that still is from a 1990 horse industry profile, and we still have old names from 1993 that are still indicated. So the Vancouver Game Farm, we all know, is the zoo. And the Langley Tomorrow program is not even in use, and Quantum College is now a university. Okay, so we have rural lands. Now, talking about the rural plan, that includes all rural lands, not just agricultural lands. We have to understand that point. So over the last 32 years, yes, there has been some changes to the rural area, but even just of late, we have the employment lands along Fraser Highway, which really does actually impact rural areas, and of course, the addition of truck parking. Now, I know that the Farmers Institute really does recognize that, yes, it's not on ALR land, but still the quality of life of everybody within the rural areas are still at the point affected. And in terms of subdividing, like we have been subdividing our ALR land and our lot sizes since 1993, and it's not indicated. And it really does mix up in terms of how the rural areas are. So I know I'm just over a minute left. So in terms of our next slide, other municipalities. So in preparation for this, now we actually did do this presentation to the AEC, and it was unanimously voted that this come to council. And Delta is a really wonderful example of what can happen in a rural area that actually is going through a lot of urban density issues. Surrey, a lot of municipalities don't do a really great job about actually putting dates on their documents, but they're a whole lot more faster ahead than we are. Maple Ridge redid their agricultural viability strategy in 2023. City of Abbotsford actually did a phasing process between 2016 to 2022, so they're much more current. And there's one thing I didn't note on here, but the City of Pitt Meadows had the award-winning rural plan, and that's what we have to go back to. That said, other municipalities also have all their ALC requests going to their AECs. It doesn't come directly to Mayor and Council. Next one. So today I'm just here to ask if Mayor and Council would make a motion to update the rural plan and vote on it today. Because if we're working on the rest of our township, then our rural areas and our ALC properties are most important too. That's all I have.
Yeah, so thank you again. And I understand that the Agricultural Advisory Committee has also passed a similar motion. Yep. So,
yes, it has.
Ms. Bauer, can you confirm that that will bubble up to Council's agenda at its next meeting? Yes. So Council would have that motion from the Agricultural Advisory Committee at its next meeting, and we'll be considering it and voting on it at that point. But again, thank you for the presentation and coming here today for sure. We'll start with questions from Council. Councilor Kunst. Oh. Sorry, Councilor Ferguson is first.
Well, I came up.
Oh, one sec. It might be a technical thing, but I can't actually see my name come up.
You are on the list.
Okay.
Councilor Ferguson is first.
Yeah, no, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, because I can't see it.
Yeah, I don't think we can see anymore.
Well, I can see yours.
Okay, we got a new system here. We're trying to learn. Thank you for coming, Ms. Smith, and I appreciate your time. And you've got somebody beside John for coming as well. I hate dating myself, but I remember that we were given some sort of an award or an acknowledgement, and when we put together the rural plan in 1993, well, I guess it took that time, and there took a few other tweaking for the system to actually get totally put in place. Plus, there was some minor tweaking over the years. Doing a complete rural plan again, it's a big decision. And the decision at that time meant we had to have a public hearing, I believe, on more than one, a DW Poppy, where we had to reach out to the whole entire community, either resident, agriculture and non-residential. And it received with lots of questions we've had from people within free title land and things like that, and agriculture uses, people farming. And so the time involved by staff and by the public, it was an awful lot of work. It's
Yes.
a big decision to make.
Yes.
So my question today, given some of the submission, would there be a possibility, and I don't know when, for some editing first, meeting with the ALR and the Land Commission, and then talking to them about what would be a good direction to go in the future? What do you think of that?
Editing would be pretty important, but also we have to still acknowledge we have rural residents that still live within this rural plan. So we would have to go and talk about with other stakeholders and actual residents. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
We
I mean,
have
I
to
think-
talk to, I mean, that would be, but prior to beginning a process.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting down with the Land Commission, looking what we have, looking at some editing to it, and then making a decision, what would be the next step forward before we go to the public?
Yeah, and I think that even, obviously the truck parking has been approved, but we still have the employment lands that are still kind of a little bit on hold. So that would be a wonderful thing to maybe kind of stop that a little bit, because we can't move forward properly with rural residents plus agricultural. So yes, sitting down with the ALC is very important. They would love it because they really want some of their, they want to deal with the AEC much more in terms of creating more of a sustainable plan.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming, and I did have a question, and it's more related to, it's maybe rhetorical, but what happens if we don't update the rural plan? Like, what are the benefits of doing it as opposed to leaving it for another 3 years?
Well,
I know it's a loaded question.
that
but-
is a very loaded question. I mean, considering it was 1993, and kudos if there was an award given out in 1993, but this is 2025 now. We are still dealing with outdated stats and information using old census. It doesn't really show that Langley Township is really supporting the rural areas and rural residents.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the Farmers Institute is mostly, concerned about.
Thank you. I do have a motion, but I understand that maybe it's going to come from the agricultural committee. So,
Well, I hope so.
yeah. But if not, I do have one, and, it can land next.
And
meeting
a plan like this doesn't happen overnight. It takes
Right.
It takes a long time. So to Councillor Ferguson's point, yes, it's going to take a while, but there has to be some kind of investment and a decision made on the forefront.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. From the LFI's perspective, in the update to the rural plan, what would be the sort of lead one or two items that you'd be the most either excited to see or hopeful to see updated in the plan?
Well, we go back to the objectives. I think it's that in particular probably needs to be looked at because there's some phrasing in there and some very important word choice that should be looked at first to see if it's still in alignment with the decisions made today.
So from your perspective, from the LFI's perspective,
Yeah.
what would those changes be? Like what's the wording that you're the most apprehensive about still being in there?
Well, in terms of, we have lifestyles, making sure that environmental features associated with rural Langley still stay intact. Those are some really great things, but in terms of what is the last part of it, so some limitations for development are required to reduce conflicts and uses. So we have a lot of conflicts. So what is the essence of the rural plan on paper and what it stands for today? So I think going back to the objectives is going to be the most important part.
Great, appreciate that, thank you.
The word development is high on there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for your delegation. Couple questions, if I may. I just want to make sure I heard you clearly when you were talking about other municipalities, and we went through the list, and I've added to my notes the City of Pitt Meadows. You mentioned they have an award-winning plan,
Yeah.
so I will look that up. Also, You suggested other municipalities. The ALC requests go directly to the AAC.
Yeah.
Can you just speak a little bit more about that, what that process looks like?
Well, what it ends up happening is at the council level, you get less requests coming to you, and the AEC is more involved in terms of their rural plan or their AVS and how all requests are in alignment with that. So when we talk about like the city of Delta and the city of Pitt Meadows, they're much more talking about agriculture on a consistent basis rather than just constantly just deferring it.
Okay, so there's a deeper conversation then for each request.
Absolutely.
And then do their AACs then make recommendations or report to
Yes.
council? Or directly to the ALC?
Yeah, both.
Both?
You go to council, but it'll go to the ALC as well.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. And then, just for a point of clarification, I noticed in this council package, item N9 is the minutes from the Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting from September 24th. And item C2 in those minutes refers to a delegation that I believe you made to the AAC at that meeting. And I do see a motion embedded in here that the Agriculture Advisory Committee recommends council update the rural plan, and it was unanimously carried. Is there another subsequent motion that's going to be coming down the road, like in the next set of minutes, or is this the one that we're referring to?
That's probably the one you're referring to.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that Councillor Kuntz said that she had a motion, so I will leave it there, but I just want, that's good to know, so we have it in front of us today.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming.
Okay.
Ms. Smith, thanks for coming and pointing out the obsolescence of this current plan, and hearing that it is before the AAC. I really, respecting our committees and seeing that they're going to be bringing it forward in a very timely fashion, like next meeting. I look forward to seeing that. And you have had input at the AAC with that, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So great, so that's all the questions from council. I want to thank you
Thank
again.
you.
And for the ongoing advocacy for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next delegation is item C3 from Van City Credit Union. Please come forward. And I try to pronounce your name, but I don't want to get it wrong, so just have you introduce yourself to council, and then you have 5 minutes. And thanks again for coming today.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Woodward and councilors for providing me an opportunity to speak to Township's Energy Step Code and Zero Carbon Step Code. My name is Levin Jogu. I actually grew up in Aldergrove, so this is and went to ACSS, so this is a really special treat for me. Today I'm here representing Van City, which is Canada's largest community credit union with 570,000 members, including about 10,000 here in Langley. We're strongly encouraging council to maintain current requirements for Part 9's residential construction that meets Zero Carbon Step Code EL3 and Energy Step Code 4. Now, you're probably wondering why someone representing a financial institution is here to talk about building codes. Building codes like the Zero Carbon Step Code and others are the most impactful tools local governments have to improve energy efficiency and maintain long-term affordability for residents, homeowners, and our members. I'm here in part also because Van City made a commitment to be net zero by 2040, and 78% of our financed emissions, that is, emissions derived from each dollar we loan out, come from the built environment. So that's homes and construction. As a financial cooperative, we use our assets to build stronger and resilient communities for people. We support our members by providing loans to homeowners at preferred rates to renovate their homes, to either replace windows or building envelopes or buy a heat pump. We know we can't do it alone, which is why we work with our government partners to encourage them to put in place policies like the STEP Code and others to ensure homes that we build today are built to last, and we don't need costly energy efficiency upgrades in the future. We want to finance more homes in Langley, and we want to finance low carbon homes. Maintaining the current requirements is the right thing to do for your constituents and our members. New homes will benefit from lower energy bills with electric heat pumps that provide high efficiency heating and cooling. Maintaining the current requirements will also result in safer homes that protect residents from overheating in the summer. Rolling back requirements now would, I believe, cause confusion and create regulatory uncertainty, given that the province has decided or has indicated that will increase energy step code and zero carbon step code requirements in 2027. We hope that you'll maintain the current building requirements and leadership that positions Langley to continue to build homes that are safe and provide long-term affordability and high performance for new residents and our members in the community. So thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide comments on behalf of the city. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you again for coming. I don't see any questions from council, so again, thank you very much for your delegation. Thank you. So we'll move to reports to council. Item E1, TransLink 2026 funding requests. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E1? Seeing none, call the question on E1. That carries unanimously. Item E2, equipment and fleet operations and replacement strategy. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on E2? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to move an amendment to add the words "for a phased program over 2 years," seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion and questions about that amendment? Seeing none, I'll call a question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. Now back to the main motion as amended. Seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on the main motion as amended. So obviously, we all voted, so we'll do that again. Oh, and we're doing it in real time this time. And that carries unanimously. Move on to item E3, Willoughby and Willowbrook Major Road and Active Transportation Projects. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion? Questions? Great, seeing none, I have two amendments, Ms. Bauer. They're pretty minor, so I'll just move those. This first amendment is that 72nd Avenue for the north and south sides be added to major roadworks at a design cost of $1.5 million, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion about that amendment? Councillor Martins.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to find that, what the amendment is here. So under major roadworks, we have item number 7, 72nd Avenue. Sorry, did you change the wording of that?
No, it's an additional project such that to look at the north and south sides to combined as a separate project at a design cost of $1.5 million.
Thank you.
Great, so with that, I'll call the question on that. Ms. Power, that doesn't seem to be an option for me. There we are. Call the question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. The second amendment, that 203 Street from 65 Avenue to 67 Avenue be added to major roadworks at a design cost of $600,000. Seconded by Councillor Rent. Any discussion or questions? Great, seeing none, I'll call the question. That's also not yet an option for me, Ms. Bauer. Oh, there we go. That carries unanimously. Now back to the main motion as amended. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the main motion as amended. Did everybody vote on that one? That carries unanimously. I'm just going to turn. Moving on to item E4, review of building energy requirements, report number 25-167. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion or questions on E4? Great. Councillor Coons, go ahead.
So, which recommendation are you moving? Oh, they're both, oh. Okay, so we're not gonna maintain, we're gonna go back to,
Yeah, so I have also a referral motion on that recommendation.
okay, so, but you have a referral motion? So should we deal with the referral motion first, or can I make comments, or? Okay, no, I guess I'm, you know, I have, I was quite impressed with it, with the report. And I think going into this, I typically are concerned, I've been concerned with the construction and the maybe the lack thereof. So knowing that this may help, but actually after reading the report, I realized that we're heading to step 4. We're there now, and we're heading there provincially anyways. So it doesn't seem like it's really makes any sense to actually go back. So I guess I would want to just maintain the current step code. That's my position.
Thank you. Yeah, I concur with that. The report, first I want to give kudos to staff who put that together. There was a lot of great information in there, and I can see a lot of work has done into moving forward with regards to us being at step code 4 and EL3, and the amount of public education and staff education and so much time and energy has been brought into that, and resources, and I'm mindful of that. There has been significant investment by this municipality. And then when I see where we line up versus other municipalities, we're not, unfortunately, leading the charge. We're middle of the pack. And I would like us to at least stay there. And I appreciate the comments from the delegation earlier. We don't want to create regulatory uncertainty and flip-flopping. I think that's not good governance. It sends a message to people in that industry that are trying to do their work in due diligence and in good faith, and we're not really providing clarity by reversing course. And the fact that it is ultimately going to be happening anyways, I think we should stay the course.
Ms. Barr, can you bring up that referral motion, please? Great, so I'm going to move that referral, seconded by Councillor Rint, and I'm going to give a chance to look at this. That item E4 be referred to staff to prepare amendments to the Township of Langley building bylaw and related processes this year to modernize references to paper-based submission processes. Number 2, transitional provisions for in-stream applications to provide some in-stream protection for townhouse developments. And number 3, streamlining of post-development permit reviews and current referrals to process, and to try to speed up the building permit and construction process. Is there any questions or discussion about that referral? Councillor Kuntz, go ahead.
So I haven't done a deep dive on this. So what does that actually mean for the actual step code? Does this mean that we are going to maintain, or are we going to go back?
Mr. Green?
Just bear with me. Through your worship to Councillor Kunst, the direction here would be that the current energy step code for Part 9 residentials will be maintained. However, staff would be looking at amending the Township of Langley building bylaw and introducing some further in-stream application protection. And it appears to be densities of 15 UPA. So in the event there has been submissions of individuals in their applications prior to April 1st, we would look at language to introduce in-stream protection.
So we're maintaining, like, that council maintain the township's current requirements that Part 9 residential construction meets step 4 and EL3?
Through your worship to Councillor Kunst, that is correct, with some applications being awarded in-stream protection, meaning that they would be compliant with the they would comply with the energy step code of the date that the in-stream protection is applicable.
Okay, I'll wait till others speak.
Yeah, thanks for the report. Pretty informative, but I'd like to refer this also because there are still some things that I want to get clarification from with staff and make sure that when we're looking at this, that we are fully informed. You can tell already by some of the questions and that there is more understanding in this needed.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm pleased with the in-stream protection, but honestly for myself in this referral, some of the things that get me the most excited are just the simple process changes to make things a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more efficient. I think we're heading in the right direction on that, so I'm excited to see what the referral will come back and what the amendments will say.
Thank you. Looking at point 2, just trying to understand the language here, that in-stream applications have the option to proceed under the step code and energy labeling requirements in effect at the time of the rezoning application. Is that referring to in effect with the Township of Langley or with the province?
Dear Worship, to Councillor Martin, staff's understanding would be with the Township of Langley. So since it's directing staff to prepare amendments, along with amendments, we would be providing a report to council and giving some background history and examples of what these implications are. Maybe off the top of the cuff here, an example would be that in-stream protection would be awarded to an application that at that time the step code might have been 4 EL2, so they would be awarded that in-stream protection.
Okay. And then, and I guess my confusion is the last line there that says subject to current provincial implementation timelines, which is slower implementation than what the township is doing.
I'll answer that. So again, apologize for the confusion. It kind of speaks for itself if you understand it. So right now, the provincial government has a timeline in place that local government can't defer or delay any further. So if someone has in-stream protection in place, subject to this being approved in the future, that would not override the province delaying or speeding up its timeline. Local government is not able to override that. So in-stream protection would only extend as far as provincial requirements.
Okay, thank you. And the reason I'm asking the questions is so I can understand better. But forgive me for that.
I think, I'll admit to being, a little irritated with the flip-flopping comment. I think what we're hearing from industry is a desire for in-stream protection and working with the industry, but also advancing step code and improvements to long-term objectives around climate and energy consumption. So trying to find that middle ground, trying to listen to some good constructive feedback and find the middle road. Anyone can just, label it flip-flopping. I think we're trying to work with the industry, trying to work with the community to advance these objectives in a reasonable way, being open to making changes. But I think it's obviously political to label it something like flip-flopping when we're trying to advance the interests of the community. So I'll call the question.
I guess the same thing happened to me as happened to Councillor Plumes. I pushed my button and it disappeared. Okay, I don't know if there's a problem in the system, a technical problem in the system or whatever, but. Okay, that's okay. It's a new system, everybody out there, and I'm really learning. At the end of the day, I'm gonna know more than you guys. Anyway, thank you very much. It's interesting to note that I'm in favor of this referral, but I like to dig a little bit deeper into what we're doing in Langley versus what other folks are doing. And understand our neighbor, Surrey, a very large community, basically same size as us geographically, but certainly from a residential point of view, at least triple the number of residents as us. And they don't have step 4 yet. I think we are also waiting for the province to initiate that. And if I may through a chair, is that 2027 they're thinking of doing it?
To Your Worship, to Councillor Ferguson, that is correct.
Okay, so, but let me just kind of add on. I don't expect you to have answers to all these questions. They also have some very strict rules and interesting regarding e-cars and other things for, I believe, 2030. There's been a lot of changes, I guess, with our friends south and tariffs and things like that about whether they're going to be able to meet some of those needs. Of course, federally, the carbon challenges and taxes being changed. So I hope that in this referral, we're able to maybe come to some, as a common ground between what we're doing and what other communities are doing, and whether the province is going to proceed in 2027, given all the other challenges out there. And those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Councilor Ferguson. I think the larger issue that maybe some don't appreciate is building permits don't have built-in in-stream protection. So one of the unintended consequences of that reform may have been the lack of thinking about in-stream protection, which doesn't apply to building permit requirements. So that, I'm going to call the question on the referral of E4. That carries unanimously. Item E6, 2025 Volunteer and Composite Fire Department's Equipment and Training Grant. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on E6? Seeing none, call a question on E6. That carries unanimously. Item E7, capital request for museum reserve funding for exhibits at Salish Place. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Any discussion on E7? Seeing none, call the question on E7. That carries unanimously. Item E8, Ice and Dry Arenas Facility Counter Tariffs Report. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion on E8? Councillor Martins.
Thank you. A question, if I can, through the chair to staff. I note that one of the funding sources is the Growing Communities Fund. I was under the impression that that fund had been fully earmarked for a couple of projects. So if I could just get clarification on why there's still existing funds there.
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, that is correct. The Growing Community Funds historically was earmarked. However, at year end, it allows us to see if there's any interest accumulated in the fund. And subsequent to year end, there was an indication that there was interest accumulated in that Growing Communities Fund.
And for that amount, or do we have more left yet?
I believe that is the amount. I just defer to Ms. Ruff to see if there's any excess to the amount that's indicated in the report.
That is the total amount. So now the fund is at zero. Correct. Okay, thank you.
Great, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on E8.
Excuse me. Steve Ferguson is having a problem.
Oh, no, I actually don't have anything. That was from the last item. Okay.
Go. That carries unanimously. Item E9, capital pre-approval for 212 Connector Roadworks. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E9? Seeing none, call the question on E9. That carries unanimously. Item E10, Agricultural Land Commission application number 100471. Does anybody wish to move referral or not to refer? Which one are you moving, Councillor Bailey? Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I would go A, refer the application to the ALC for consideration based on agricultural merits.
Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Does anybody wish to speak to it? Councillor Coons, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I won't be voting to refer that. I mean, I think this is a good example of maybe probably should have applied for that before you made the plans for your creative landscaping project. So I won't be in favor of that.
All right, any other discussion? Not seeing any. I supported the referral. I think we've been relatively consistent on this. I would like to see some additional explanation at some point, and not to be today, around consistency of positions we hold around the ALC and the ALR. I'm not following the logic to refer land for an exclusion for a truck park, and then vote against the non-farm use. Maybe at some point that can be explained. So from now, I'll call the question on the motion. If you could vote. No. Go ahead, Councillor Kuntz. You can vote. That carries with Councillor Kuntz, Councillor Martin's opposed. Item E11, telecommunications tower application 0021. And I'll move the recommendation under A to not object. Seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on E11A? Seeing none, call the question on E11A. That carries unanimously. Item E12, development permit application number 101510. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on E12? Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to highlight the fact that, yes, there are some, well, there's a roadside ditch being moved and filled, but it's being replaced with an additional streamside protection and enhancement area that'll be feeding into Latimer Creek. So I'm satisfied with the environmental offsets on this site, and I think it's a nice piece to finally round out on 76th Avenue and 197 there in terms of sidewalk and road frontage.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Cooner, you could confirm with staff that this is required to complete the 76th Avenue roadworks?
That is correct, Your Worship.
All right, so I think that I also, so any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question on E12. That carries unanimously. Item E13, Ms. Bauer, I'll be declaring a conflict of interest on that item. Thank you. And Acting Mayor Pratt will take over.
There we go. Item E13, heritage alteration permit application number 101498. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on E13?
Thank you. So just looking at this application, I see in the report from staff, with regards to the Simpson Brothers store, so the southernmost building across the lane from the community hall, it's included in the township's heritage inventory. Could staff elaborate on what heritage provisions are in place for that building?
Through your acting worship to Councillor Martins. So the application is for a heritage alteration permit. The Simpson store and lands in that heritage conservation area are designated such to protect any demolition or alterations or improvements to those lands. So they are protected via the mechanism that council is going through today in terms of that. Council has a full purview in terms of any demolition or improvements to lands or buildings with respect to that. So it's coming forward today in terms of the Simpson store. As you've noted, the Simpsons Brothers store is on the township's heritage inventory. Qualified professionals produced a heritage conservation plan, and the qualified professional architect is following that plan as reviewed by the Heritage Review Panel and the Heritage Advisory Committee. And their indication is that the store itself and the overall development was consistent with the general character and landscaping of the Heritage Conservation Area guidelines. So.
Okay. Thank you. And just as a follow-up to that, the heritage inventory is not the same as the heritage having like a protected status. A heritage inventory is just an acknowledgement of the heritage, but doesn't protect it from the, it's not on the register. Can you just clarify the difference between those two designations?
Through your acting worship to Council Martin, so correct, there's sort of a range or a gradation of heritage protection. So the inventory is an inventory or a listing of properties the town has identified of having some sort of heritage significance. That I guess would feed into council's consideration when they adopted the heritage conservation area. Sort of walking up from that, there'd be a community heritage register. There's a number of properties in the township that are on the register that is adopted by council and then is also registered with the provincial government that provides a level of protection with such things as immediate protection for demolition and those types of items. And then there's other tools in council's toolbox in terms of heritage conservation agreements and other items like that.
Okay, thank you. So as this application stands now, if we move ahead, it's entirely possible that those buildings could all be demolished.
Through acting worship, Council Martin's no. The heritage conservation area protects and requires the process that council is going through right now for council's consideration of a permit to allow that to occur. So the protection is provided through the heritage conservation area and through council's approval process, your acting worship.
Okay, thank you very much.
I see no other speakers on the list unless anybody went to have their name on the list and then took it off by accident. Seeing no other speakers, yeah, I'm excited to see this one move forward. The Simpson building being sort of set aside on its own, separated by the breezeway, I think is a nice touch. And looking forward to seeing this one move forward. Councillor Martins. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kuntz.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I see that it's not 3 stories and generally reflects the heritage conservation guidelines, and I will be supporting it.
Councillor Ferguson.
Come up. Okay, thank you very much. I did see on the report that your staff notes for the project indicate that some road works have to be done prior to building permit. Can you comment, if I may, Mr. Richardson?
Through acting worship to Councilor Ferguson, thank you. As noted in the staff report and for our development applications in general, they're subject to the Township Subdivision Development Servicing Bylaw. And as you know, this site has a circumstance where we have Mary and McBride Lane, which are offset currently. So we have 2 active applications. One is issued a permit by council at Glover and Mary Church. And the subject application day, if endorsed by council, when both applications do proceed, we'd be looking, pursuant to our subdivision development servicing bylaw, for options there to make some changes to that intersection design to ensure safety items are further explored.
A subsequent question, I thank you. That would be a positive thing, roadworks and things like that prior to the building permits. Another thing is obviously anyone applying for these type of heritage alteration permits need to have approval from the Heritage Review Panel, if I may, as well?
Through your acting worship to Councilor Ferguson, that's correct. Councilor Ferguson, the project has been reviewed by the Heritage Review Panel and then also by the Heritage Advisor Committee. The Heritage Review Panel had some comments that were subsequently reviewed by the proponent, and revisions are being made to the plans and presented as they are here to council today.
Thank you, that's correct, thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, I got hung up on the other question and I missed some of the other points I wanted to make. So as one of the council representatives on the Heritage Advisory Committee, this application came back to us after going through the Heritage Review Panel with some good recommendations. And we did talk about it at great length at that committee meeting. And there was some further input given to the proponent, and I am glad to see in the report that the feedback was passed along to the proponent and some adjustments made for that. So that's good to see. That's how we know the process is working correctly. And I also acknowledge that because this property is not on the Heritage Register, and I know that's up to the proponent, whether they wish to or not. At this time, they are within their rights to proceed as they are, and it is what it is. And when I look at the renderings of this project, it looks pretty great. I think it'll be a nice facelift along that stretch. I think it looks exciting. I'm interested in it. My only regret, but it's not the fault of the proponent, is that we are not realigning the intersection to line up with across the street. That will remain as a pretty narrow lane between the hall and this project. But that's neither here nor there at this point. So the project, the way it stands, I will support. And I look forward to seeing some of these new properties and reinvigorating that area.
Yeah, thank you. Personally, one of the exciting things is seeing some of the smaller units in the project, which will hopefully mean that there's some smaller businesses, we can keep the independent character of Fort Langley going, and then especially the big patio and the walnut tree property is very exciting to see. So with that, call the question on E13. And that carries unanimously.
All right, we'll continue with bylaws for first, second, and third reading. Highwalk closure, dedication, removal, and disposal bylaw 6165. Moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on G1? Seeing none, call a question on G1. That carries unanimously. Item G2, rezoning application number 100654, bylaw number 6166. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on G2? Seeing none, call a question on G2. That carries unanimously. The bylaws for final adoption, 2026 permission of tax exemptions, bylaw number 6170. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on I1? None, call a question on I1. That carries unanimously. I2, official community plan amendment, rezoning application number 100215, bylaw numbers 5917, 5918. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on I2? Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through yourself to staff, as this is a final adoption, does that mean that the proponent has already submitted and paid the community amenity contribution that they're voluntarily offering?
To your worship, to Councillor Pratt, that is correct.
And can you give us an idea of what that number is?
Approximately 7.8 million, I believe.
Thank you very much. It's for me personally really exciting to see a neighborhood center like this come forward. I know there's been some challenges on the site in the past, but excited to see what this means for that neighborhood. Took a walk through there the other day, and a lot of the live-work townhomes are looking really nice. I saw at least one business operating out of there, so hopefully we can get even more commercial going in that neighborhood, and it'll be a fantastic addition to the Willoughby Slope.
All right, seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on I2. That carries unanimously. Get a motion to adopt development permit number 100999, moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Rint. Any discussion on I2 development permit? Seeing none, call it. Question's been called on the development permits. That carries unanimously. Move reconsideration of J1. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any call the question on reconsideration? That carries unanimously. I'm going to move the original motion, seconded by Councillor Rent. And there's a couple of really minor amendments here. So First Amendment, if you wish to speak to the motion, go ahead, Councillor Martins.
Yeah, just trying to get some clarification here. You said the original motion. So when I'm looking in the agenda, that's not including that the overall average project unit size be changed to 725 square feet. Is that not part of the original motion?
No, that's not part of the original motion. The original motion would be as it was prior to the amendment. So the motion on the floor is currently that council give third and final reading to the bylaw.
Is it possible to get clarification if there was a different square footage or amount in the original motion?
It would have been a different amount. I'm assuming it would have been a different amount due to the change to it. Should council wish to include that amendment, we would simply move the amendment again.
Yeah, I recall that the original motion had a different amount, and I can't remember if it was higher or lower, the square footage.
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, I believe it was a higher amount, which is staff are locating at this time. I think it was, if I recall, 799 square feet, and then it was reduced down to 725.
Yeah, I believe it was the opposite, Mr. Cooner, but Mr. Richardson can confirm. I believe it was 699 increased to 725.
You are right. It was the other way
So
around, yes.
The original bylaw had that number referenced in it.
So we're voting on the 699 right now? Is that right? That's what's being moved? Okay. Alrighty, and I note that I had a concern about this previously. If I could just mention just the feedback that we got from the Urban Development Institute. They strongly recommended away from actually designating a certain amount of square footage because it could actually reduce their ability to be efficient in their building and drive up the cost of the units. So this motion as it stands now is still recommending prescribing a square footage contrary to the advice that we had from UDI. Is that correct, the way I'm reading it?
Yeah, I recall that, and I also recall the UDI opposing accelerating step code.
I'm not sure the point of that comment. So to be clear, what we're voting on right now has a prescribed amount, which is not what UDI was hoping to see.
Great, so Ms. Bauer, I have a First Amendment that bylaw 5994 is only to be granted third reading. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rint. Does anybody have any discussion on only granting this reading for third? Councillor Martins.
Does that give opportunity for public hearing? Or just it delays the final vote until our next meeting?
Public hearings. To your worship, Councillor Martins, the public hearing concluded in the event the amendments adopted are the same, or in relation to grace period, there would be no further public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Great, is there any other discussion on that amendment? Seeing none. Oh, Ms. Bauer's called the question on, push the button for me, there we are, on the amendments. That carries with Councillor Martins opposed. So we're going to carry on with the Second Amendment that the overall average project unit size be changed to 67.35 square meters, 725 square feet. Seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Ms. Bauer, so I hadn't concluded if there were any discussion. So somebody's pushing this button, is that,
I was one click ahead.
okay, so maybe you can. All right, so we're gonna call that again, the question on the amendment. That carries with Councillor Martin's opposed. So now I have a third amendment that bylaw number 5994, section 2, item D, be amended to start any application submitted prior to January 1st, 2025, shall be granted a 36th-month grace period. Seconder to that, seconded by Councillor Pratt. So I can read that again. Section 2, item D, be amended to start any application submitted prior to January 1st, 2025, shall be granted a 36-month grace period. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call a question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. Now we're back to third reading as amended. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, call a question on third reading as amended. That carries unanimously. Mayor and council reports. Anybody wish to make a report? Councilor Ferguson, did you press your button? I did. And then it immediately then you immediately disappeared, so something's going on there.
How did you know I
Ferguson,
just-
well, I
there I
saw
am.
it this time, it flashed, so go ahead.
Okay, so you're the culprit then, if I may? Oh, Mr. Mayor, I raise on a more of a serious issue. I'm here to thank senior staff and all of council for the help, the empathy, and other that they provided. As many of you know, we had a fire to our house. Our house burned down about 3 years ago, just after the municipal election. And the staff have been very helpful, very empathetic, and helped me through a number of things. I didn't have internet or a computer for a while. They helped me with a number of things, both the mayor's support staff and the clerk's department and senior staff, the CAOs, both Mr. Cooner and Mr. Backen as well helped me out as well. Mayor, yourself, and all members of this council have been very, very helpful, and I do appreciate. Many of you have visited the house just after the fire. I've appreciated. We're now in our home now. We've been in our home only 1 week, but I did want to raise and thank both mayor, staff, and council for all the help they've given me. So thank you very much.
You're certainly welcome, Councilor Ferguson. I know that's been a long road. Yeah. Is there any other mayor and council reports you wish to make? Councilor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to give a shout out to the organizing committee of the 31st annual Langley Leadership Prayer Breakfast that was held on Friday. It's always an event that is a highlight on my calendar, and I know many others. And the speaker this year was really, really special to hear from. Reminded me about how much good there is out there and how many people are doing really amazing things. And so always reinvigorating to go to that breakfast and hear about all the good that's being done.
Yeah, I'd just like to bring up the fact that the Museum of Flight had a very interesting forum with women in aviation. It's I can associate with this in one way, as I come from a significantly male-dominated profession, as is in many aspects the air industry. And it was very interesting listening to the 6 ladies that were up there and talking about their careers and possible ways that women can be involved. So hats off to the Museum of Flight for doing something first time out. They had a very good attendance.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Metro Vancouver reports the Metro Vancouver have been putting their budgets together and having each committee has been getting an explanation of the next step. We're going to be meeting this Wednesday to look at it as a board. the budget for next year. So it's a very in-depth, very professional budget. My next thing is, it did come up in the budget, is our municipal athletic park, natural park, which is in South Langley. We've dedicated 74 acres to Metro Vancouver. They came up with another, I guess, almost 20 or so acres to make it 108, almost 109 acres up in South Langley for a new municipal natural park. So it's very, very, very positive. I'll bring that to everyone's attention. And if I may, through the chair, either to Mr. Winslade or others, is that 5 or 6 regional parks for Langley now, if I may?
Councillor Ferguson, I'd have to quickly count on my fingers, but I know that we're extremely well served by Metro Vancouver as far as the regional parks here in the township.
Okay, we'll
That
get
one
that for
being the latest.
next council report. I'll have that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Winslade.
Yeah, at the Metro Water Committee, once again, I brought up the absence of major transmission lines from Metro into Langley. We only have one major transmission line that peaks in at Willoughby and then runs up through Walnut Grove. And I see that they put a nice big loop in South Surrey, where I knew for years it was a no water district, we used to call it. So trying to impress on them that Township of Langley should not be forgotten, and we should have a major transmission line loop through the south and the east of our jurisdiction, and that would better serve so many different aspects of things like our aquifers. Some of them are showing signs of wear and tear, and also when it comes to emergency services provision.
All right, anybody else to wish to make a Mayor and Councilor Metro Vancouver report? Okay, seeing none. Items for information N1 through 9. Ms. Bauer, I do have one question about item N9. Given the date of the Agriculture Advisory Committee, what was the reason that motion at the meeting almost a month ago was not placed on this agenda?
To your worship, it was just an inadvertent staff error, and that the next
So we
agenda.
will see it, it will come
Yes.
through on the November 3rd agenda. Okay, so just want to have council be aware of that, that's great. Item N5, I want to direct council's attention to that. I think it's an important program that we want to ensure continues uninterrupted. So I do have a motion related to N5 that council pre-approved $2 million from the Water Capital Works Reserve within the 2026 budget for the voluntary water metering program to continue uninterrupted into and throughout 2026, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any questions or concerns about that motion? Councillor Bailey.
Not a concern or a question. Again, at the Water Committee meeting in Metro, this is a major focus of Metro, and they are showing very significant reductions in water use on a per cap basis because of the jurisdictions that are utilizing water metering. It is something in the future, so supporting something like this is really healthy. And it was also brought up in these discussions that Township of Langley is one of the jurisdictions that is involved in driving this forward.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I can only speak for myself, but initiating voluntary metering has been probably one of the items I'm the most proud of being a part of, a small part of on this council in this term. And as somebody who lives in a condo, I think it's quite frankly just a matter of fairness. And I was surprised that nothing had been done to sort of advance this prior to. And so I'm really pleased to see it, and I'm pleased to support financing and funding it so that we can keep this program going.
Yeah, and I obviously support it. I think it's one of the bigger initiatives this council's embarked upon. I think it's great to see it getting fully underway. So is there any other discussion with that? No, call a question on that pre-approval. That carries unanimously. Councilor Coons, go ahead.
Yeah, N3, accessibility upgrades at McLeod Athletic Park. I just want to commend our staff for so quickly addressing an issue that a woman had who is in a wheelchair and couldn't actually just, the door to the bathroom just wasn't working for her. So I just think it might be just a small thing, but it's such a big thing, and I would really appreciated actually getting a little report on that, because maybe sometimes we don't get to see these little things. But it also reminded me of maybe there's other areas in our some of our recreation buildings that maybe don't have those upgrades, and I'm just wondering how maybe that could be addressed.
Mayor Woodward to Councillor Kunst. Staff are actually undergoing a review of all of our facilities right now, beginning with some of the larger. McLeod Park one, when we upgraded the theater here, we added a number of new buttons and things that council will see. I know they've been through Walnut Grove, Langley Event Center, and Aldergrove for sure. So they're currently undertaking that program with a little committee that's been established, including people who have different accessible needs who can give us feedback. And so that's actually currently undergoing and trying to make improvements as we go.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the answer to Councillor Ferguson's question, I believe with that new park is now 6, as I quickly made a list.
Yeah, this same one, McLeod Athletic Park, on the west side, and the southernmost ball field, there's an entrance that is used a lot for Rib Fest and also for the users of that field. Now, when I inquired into being able to put a ramp in there for wheelchairs and that accessibility, it was brought up to me that this is school board land. So I wonder if we could initiate a conversation with the school board to put an accessibility ramp in the on the west side of the ball diamond that fronts onto the parking lot at the school.
Mr. Kerner, I can quickly answer that if you'd like. Thanks, Councillor Bailey. And as you know, for some of those events, we've been doing a temporary ramp that's been able to assist with that situation. Staff have been having some discussions with the school district. A permanent solution takes up a few parking stalls there. But those discussions are underway, and I think with council's support, knowing that we have your support would maybe assist with those discussions. So I'll pass it on to our staff who are talking and see what we can do.
Yeah, thank you very much, because this has come up to me more than a few times, especially coincidentally right around Rib Fest time.
Right, any other questions, discussions on items for information? We'll move on to other business. Item P1, I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Rent. Any questions or discussion on P1? Councillor Kunst.
Yeah, I really appreciate that this is here. I also have a motion that I'll likely just not move, but I guess my real concern is the south side between, there's telephone poles, there's roots in the pavement, and right now the sidewalk is currently closed. With maybe to staff, do you know if that is going to be open, or is it going to have to be repaired before before they remove the closed? Because it is very dangerous from what I can see. Because I think this motion probably will likely take a while. So I guess my concern is just that it might be quite unsafe for a long time.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Kunst. We did have some temporary poles that were located in place there for facilitating power to the contractor's site trailer that was there. So there was some repairs that were required to happen prior to reopening that sidewalk.
So will those sidewalks be repaired at least to the point where they won't have like roots coming out? Because Mayor Woodward's motion, that is quite extensive, going from 208th all the way to 216th. So I guess my real concern is just really the safety of the piece that we can all see when we're driving on that side. So I don't know if there's a new or a different motion that needs to happen just to make sure that
Yeah, I think
that
that's
gets addressed.
think that's a great point. I think that's why I put in brackets in S under around capital project. So it could be broken up into multiple projects that are maybe more fundable, more
Okay.
achievable. So be my expectation that you could certainly make an amendment saying you want to see it as smaller projects, including specifically that.
Maybe,
And council would
maybe
know
that's
to come
really,
back with options, not just one giant project.
okay, because it's more about the safety of it once it does get open, because it looks like it doesn't look very safe at the moment, but I noticed that over the last couple of weeks, they've actually done a lot of work, even in the last 2 weeks, so I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if maybe they're planning to continue
So
to do
I
that.
think it's again, excellent questions and questions to raise for staff to include or make an amendment. I met with staff on site and asked similar questions and came to the conclusion that we need to sort of look at it once it's 100% finished and we know that what poles are coming out, what the state of the connections will be, which apparently I think is not quite there yet. And so I think we can start this work separate from that. And then council, if you wish to make an amendment to ask for a larger range of smaller projects and including that one, that certainly doesn't seem like it would be a problem.
Sure, I guess that would be the only amendment, just to make sure that, that gets addressed, so.
Mr. Cooner, I think staff could take the inference that capital projects is potentially plural there and look at providing some options for council to fund smaller improvements.
That is correct. When we report back to council, we'll give council the options to either have one capital project or several capital projects, and then give council wait for council's directions to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions or discussion on P1? So no, call the question on P1. That carries unanimously. Item P2, I'll move the motion, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion or questions on P2? Councillor Kunst.
Yeah, do we know if if Kwantlen has received any grant money for the Bedford Channel dredging? Do we have an update on that?
To your worship, to Councillor Kuntz, my understanding is that's still ongoing, and to our knowledge, no grant has been received yet from the provincial or federal government.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd certainly appreciate the motion itself and some of the suggestions around trying to accelerate this. So the motion is to establish a new Bedford Channel dredging reserve upcoming this year and having council consider an additional transfer into that reserve that would be an annual amount that would prepare for more recurrent dredging and have a funding source for that, hopefully in partnership with other levels of government or grant opportunities, and to provide some additional funding for that in 2026 to start to look towards how the township can find funding sources to participate in dredging. That process is now hopefully underway here today. Councillor Martins.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate this motion coming forward and support it. I think it's proactive and responsible. And I hope we can eventually get towards an ongoing maintenance program, potentially in collaboration with other municipalities along the Fraser, so that we're not ever in a point again where we're facing the lack of the channel, the disappearing altogether. So, and I do hope that funding comes forward to Kwantlen from the federal government to assist with the cost of this. So, thank you.
Seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on P2. That carries unanimously. Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yes, so I'm not going to read this out. Everyone on council can read, and I'd like to move this.
Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Go ahead.
And the reason is very clearly identified is the growth in the boomer population and seniors. And there's this population growth. It now has resulted in seniors living in their vans, living rough in the streets and all that kind of stuff. So we have a piece of property that we have designated for this kind of housing, and this will enable staff to also explore BC how both the provincial and the federal government that have both expressed interest in funding projects like this. And I think seniors especially and other vulnerable populations need to be addressed in in the township here, we're lacking, and we are definitely not going to be able to keep up unless we do these kind of projects.
Any other discussion on item P3? Seeing none, call a question on P3. That carries unanimously. Councilor Bailey, back to you.
Move 4.
Seconded by Councilor Ring.
Yes, we're getting comments from from some seniors who are looking at applying for this committee that it is dark earlier, and that they quite possibly would like to see it earlier during the day so they can limit their amount of walking in the dark, because some of them are having trouble seeing, in the dark. They're having trouble seeing possible trip hazards, and also, let's not beat around the bush. Some of us like to go to bed earlier now that we're older, and it's just something that is being generated from interest in this committee.
Yeah, I did run that by the seniors committee last week when we met, and, they seem to be considering it's something they could do. There are still working members, even though they're senior, people are still work. So sometimes that can be a challenge, but an afternoon meeting certainly is worth giving it a try. Also, we're sometimes having a hard time getting quorum for meetings as well. So this is an opportunity. Thank you.
Right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on P4. That carries unanimously. Ms. Bauer, I think it's appropriate if you make a note that council's endorsed that. So if you could go back and let every person that's applied for the committee for this year to be notified that the start time will be adjusted, and that anybody who's currently on the committee to be made aware of that as well during the application process.
We will take care of that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Yeah. Back to Councilor Bailey, P5, go ahead.
Yes, I'm really pleased to be able to bring this forward. There is I'll move it. Yep. Yes, I have.
Seconded by Councilor Pratt.
I started discussions with the founder of Homes for Heroes a number of months ago, and now with the interest that is expressed by the federal government in at least paying a little more attention to our armed forces. This project has various locations across Canada and none in BC. So the founder is based in Calgary. His name is David. I want to make sure I get it right. David Howard. Very interested to the point of that he will fly out here to make presentation, and this only requires 1 acre of land to house vulnerable veterans who are more than having a tough time, especially when it comes to PTSD. I also had the opportunity the other night with Drew Scott, and the Scott brothers, the property brothers, are on this project, and I had to talk to him about would he be interested in supporting bringing this to Langley, and express a lot of interest. So pretty well all we have to do is supply 1 acre of land, and this is a fully supported project for veterans who are desperately in need of support in dealing with PTSD, and also the situation of being unhoused. Yep. One last thing. In the distribution package, there is this package that outlines what the requirements are. That's in the current distribution package, so people could have background information on this.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Bailey, for the information package. So I apologize if my questions are answered. I looked through it quickly before the meeting. Do we have an idea on the number of our veterans that are unhoused or precariously housed in Langley? Do we have any information about that by chance? If I could ask the mover, that would be good, because I know you've been doing some research on this.
When they're doing the homeless count, as you know, they don't identify specifics of the people that are actively unhoused, but there is concern, not only immediately in the way the homeless count is handled, but you can rest assured that there are homeless veterans that have come up in conversation, and I see no problem with getting ahead of this. And as you know, we don't always know who is unhoused and what their backgrounds are.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's not a criticism, but rather I am concerned about how large the issue is, to ensure that we're able to provide meaningful improvement to it. That was the one question I had, and then the other, again, it's just out of interest. You mentioned we only require 1 acre of land. Again, any idea how many people we would be able to house within that piece of land?
That's in the information package. It goes up to 24.
Thank you.
Thank you, if I may, either to Councillor Bailey or just to general discussion. Some of these housing projects and the new one, you've mentioned the federal government, and as we all know, the Canadian Forces base in Aldergrove is 1,100 acres. And over the years, we've asked the federal government if there's any chance that they can open up some of that land to be used for these type of purposes, to help people like veterans, to help people that are in need, and the land is available and it's close to an existing community of Aldergrove. So perhaps, maybe, just maybe, they've got 1,100 acres, they might be able to free up a few acres for these very, very valuable programs.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call the question on P5. That carries unanimously. Councillor Kunst.
Oh, so I'll just not move that. P6? Yeah, I'll do P7. My mic is on now. Okay, I would like to move the Murrayville item. Okay, so last meeting, there was a motion about 224th and the 56th. And I guess when I was doing that motion, the thing about 224th is it's really weird, but you can go from 224th to 223rd. It goes 224th, 222nd to 223rd, all within 3 kilometers, pretty much in a straight line. So anyway, I digress. That's why this is here, because there was some confusion around having a crosswalk at 224th and 50th Avenue. It doesn't make sense to actually have one there, but it does make sense to have one at 223rd because that's where the Shoppers Drug Mart is. So that's why this is here, and also because along 223rd, there's a lot of residential housing, there's a lot of seniors and a lot of children that are walking along those streets. And there was approximately over 250 people who signed a petition that we look at that area for safety reasons, crosswalks, etc. So I hope that council will support this motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion on P7? If not, I've got a referral motion. I'm going to move that item P7 be referred back to staff for a referred back to staff in the 2026 budget process, and that these petitions be provided to all members of council. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Wren. Is there any questions or discussion on the referral? Councillor Kunst.
So I did ask to have that provided, and then I was told that maybe it wasn't something that I was supposed to do. So I can easily provide that to all members of council.
Any other questions or discussion on the referral? Seeing none, call the question on the referral. That carries unanimously. Any other business? Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. In items for distribution from October 20th, item 7 is a letter from the Langley Arts Council, and it is requesting that council take a look at the naming convention of the Aldergrove Kinsman building, and I'd just like to move a referral motion.
Can you be more specific about the referral?
Yeah, so I'd be moving a referral of of item 7 from the October 20th distribution list to staff to follow up the Langley Arts Council and provide recommendations to council regarding naming of the Aldergrove.
Okay, I'll second that. Is there any
Community
discussion
center.
or concern about that referral? Seeing none, call the question on that referral.
Which one, item was it again for the 20th?
Langley Arts Council correspondence.
Item 7.
Okay, item 7, okay, got it.
Okay, so we're gonna do that again, maybe get timed out. So everybody ready? We're gonna vote on the Langley Arts Council referral. There we are, carried unanimously. Is there any other business? Okay, so I have 4 items for closed. Does anybody else have any other items for closed? No, so Ms. Bauer, I have a property item, second property item, an intergovernmental item, and a personnel item. So with that amendments, can I get a motion to resolve into closed? Moved by Councillor Pratt, I'll second it. All those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. Get a motion to terminate? Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by myself. All those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. Thank you.